Yeah, yeah, wouldn't ends. We back with another one for the youths in them. Yeah, young, brilliant minds, future in sight. Got the power to make change, make the world ignite. Let nobody say you can't achieve. Your dreams are seeds, sow and just watch them grow. But you gotta believe in the youth effect. We're raising up the youth effect. Can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential. Standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Educate, we get the key, unlock the potential. A lesson every day, knowledge essential. Standing tall, walking proud, let your voice be heard. Unite together as one, spread the love with every word. The youth effect, we're raising up. The youth effect, can't hold us down. The youth effect, we breaking ground. The youth effect, they gonna hear us roar. Create, initiate, push through, no limits. Go ahead and live it up. Respect, positivity, you on your way. Break down walls, build bridges. Yeah.
Easter Monday, let me wish you an Easter Monday, happy Easter Monday, as well as for those Catholics around the world. Let me also say sincerest condolences on the passing of Pope Francis. May his soul rest in eternal peace. And in true faith of all we are doing here, Pope Francis was also one for the young people, and we are doing just that here on the Youth Effect. This is what you are looking at. Today is Monday, 21st April, 2025. 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. My name is Kathy Robinson, and I'll be your host tonight. You may be looking at us either on Instagram, on Facebook, as well as YouTube. So I want to say thank you for spending yet another precious hour and a half of your time with us. We really, really appreciate you, as well as for sharing the information with your friends as about the Youth Effect. And what we are is a conduit for the young people's voices in bridging the gap between the generations, helping us to understand them, so in turn we can live more in harmony, a harmonious life, harmonious society. It may seem like the ideal, but as long as we communicate our differences, communicate our similarities, that is not so much of such a far-fetched idea. So as being a conduit for advocating for the youth, motivating them and empowering them, not only for them, but with them and by them. In true spirit, we bring to you another episode with one of our young voices in the feature in the form of Miss Abigail Linton from, again, Nature Isle of the Caribbean, Dominica, who will be sharing with us some of her own experiences of adulting. Even some of us in our high up, going a little wiser phases, we also say we wish we didn't, if someone had told us about growing up, we wouldn't want to do this adulting thing. So what really is adulting, and what it is like for young people off after college, getting into their 20s, starting to work, starting to get all this true life thing is. What is it about? Is it just about getting up, going to work, getting a paycheck, going back home? What exactly it is and how it is they can manage it through navigating their independence, through self-doubt and confidence. So let me welcome Abigail to the show. Hi, Abby.
Hi everyone.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for spending tonight with us. I really appreciate you accepting to come on the show. Could you introduce yourself to our audience? We have both a viewership and a listening program. We have SBE Caribbean Radio in Canada, and as well as Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Okay. So
Well, hi
tell us.
everyone. Hi viewers and listeners. My name is Abigail. I'm from Dominica originally. I'm 24 years old, very, very young still.
Very, very young still.
um, yeah, I'm from Dominica, so did I said that? I thought I said that.
Tell us about your education, where you went to college or what you did in college, and what are your dreams, and where would you like to see yourself? I don't even want to go there. Where like to see yourself. We're talking about the present. That's where we're gonna keep it at.
So I just graduated from university in like almost a year ago now, in May of 2024. There I studied psychology and film studies as a minor, psychology as a major. And I initially I did want to become a lawyer, so but I ended up falling in love with psychology classes, and so that kind of steered my direction. And now I'm looking at wanting to be either like pursue the full route of being like a doctorate and getting like into clinical psychology, or possibly also being like a school counselor and just doing my master's and probably be in that area as well. Yeah. So that's
Oh,
the ideas I'm dabbling with at the moment.
and these are two very important areas in clinical studies, especially for younger people in the educational sector.
Mhm.
There are so many children who go to school, and that's all they have because their families are either full-time working families, and sometimes even though we say we're in perfect families, both parents there, sometimes our families are still dysfunctional,
Mhm.
and children need to we all need that boost in persons helping us, coaching us, because cannot focus here, you cannot focus here. We have traumas from this that's impeding on studying or even just focusing on what you want to do in life.
Mhm.
So you said that psychology kind of got your interest, so drew you away from being. What was that turning point for you in deciding that, yeah, I'm in love with psychology?
Mhm. I mean, I feel like I've always been a people's person. Like, I really like talking to people, getting to know people. I really like checking in on people, like just constantly trying to be a presence for like all my loved ones. So I think initially when I wanted to be a lawyer, I mean, the base root of me wanting to be a lawyer did have the foundation of wanting to help people and like be an advocate, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in like my law classes, like comparative politics, whatever, I was like, like this is interesting, but like I feel like it's still a very like far away lens of like actually being with people. It's more like historical in the background of like learning law policy, which I still think is important. But at the time in COVID, I was reading like 60 pages a night for homework, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I think I just ended up taking like, we had like breadth requirements and we had to like take certain courses. And I ended up taking like a 101 in psychology. And it was when I was taking the classes, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting to me. And like delving into like the mind, how people operate, why people are the way that they are, like all those things. I was just like, wait, I feel like I could help people even more. Like if I was in this field, like have more of a personal thing as a side of like, I feel like from being this, like a lawyer, I'd more like, it wouldn't be as personal. I feel like in some ways, especially if like if I were to become like a corporate lawyer or like, I mean, initially I was always thinking like of doing like family law or like immigration law, but yeah, psychology really like caught my interest.
And do you feel that it's kind of more far reaching than the legal field? Can touch more people in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think in some way, like, as I said before, like I think like policy and law is like really important to like understand. And I feel like fundamentally you can make a lot of changes, like as a lawyer, like being an advocate for people. But I think
Excuse
like the psychology, I guess, is more like interpersonal in a way. Like even in like just having simple conversations with someone, like
me.
because I feel like psychology, as I said, the range could be literally from like being a school counselor, it's like going in the clinical route and like working in hospitals and stuff like that. So I feel like that to me is just like it's very interesting, and like I would like to do it.
So, going into a topic, navigating independence, self doubt, and confidence, that was one part of the initial stages, really, of adulting and making such a big decision, right? Because that's a big
Hmm.
career shift
Yeah.
determined for the rest of your life. But where
Hmm.
did it start for you in terms where you figure, what is adulting and where do I start and what do I do? How do you define it for yourself?
I mean, adulting I think is a tricky thing. I was joking about it with my mom the other day. I was like, does the A in adulting stand for always something? Because it feels like there's always something. Like there's always something you have to consider, always something you have to pay for, always something like something new. It's something new every day. But I mean, I feel like that's also a welcomed challenge. Like I feel like change is a scary thing, but it's not a bad thing.
Uh huh.
And so I think for me, like when thinking about adulting, I mean, I like, have been, I don't know, kind of had to be independent like for a little while, like when I came to go to high school and like just like getting through college as well. So like just trying to stay focused on like the goals. And I believe in like setting small, tiny goals for yourself. I think like we can always have like an overarching goal, which is like, would be like, like I want to be that, but it's like taking the littler, tinier steps of like, okay, how do I get there? First can even like be the smallest thing, like, okay, what classes do I need to take for get there? What do I do in my free time to like support myself? Like, even if I'm in school and like I don't want to be doing this homework right now, like what do I do like in the meantime, like when I have small breaks that encourages me to do my homework and stuff like that. So I think I've always like tried to go about like adulting and like because I think adulting is like the biggest change like you can have like from because I know like you can be like a little girl, little boy, whatever, and then you go through your adolescence. But like when you go into an adult, I feel like that's real change because your parents are like more separated from you, like as an adult, or like your figureheads in your family. Like I feel like they look to you to like make the life for yourself. Like it's not like they're trying to like abandon you, but like it's more real. Like after you turn a certain age. So I think once I started realizing, like, yeah, man, this is really my life. Like, I have to start taking charge of it, I guess. Like, I don't want to, but so I kind of started, like, I think, what's that quote? It's like, you won't always be disciplined. No, you won't always be motivated, but you have to be disciplined. And I
Yes.
think, like, that's just how I go about adulthood. There's always going to be something scary, always going to be something that you don't necessarily, not that you don't want to do, but you don't have the encouragement to do. And so I feel like if you just buckle down and take it day by day and let yourself know, okay, yeah, I can do this. This is a smaller step. How do I get from this step to that step? And I think that's I guess how I initially like went about it, like in the smaller steps, like, okay, going to high school, okay, when I finish high school I have to go to college. When I go to college, I want to have a little job. How do I get that job? Like stuff like that. So
And when you met, so when we're talking about navigating independence, does independence mean, what does independence mean for you? Is it just being by yourself and doing everything on your own, or knowing when to ask for help or rely on, or if it's okay to rely on people? What does it mean for you? What does it look like for you?
I think independence, I guess it can be pretty multi-layered, but I think for me, I don't think it necessarily means being on my own because I feel like we always have resources around us and we always have people that like encourage us and can support us. Like if we ask for that help, I feel like using your voice is important. I think the independent part is like trusting in yourself to know that you you can if you will be able eventually to support yourself, but like also know that you have resources. So I feel like that's the true like beauty for me of independence, like testing myself to see if I can do it, but also knowing that like I'm not alone in it, if that makes sense. So like I think when I'm like looking at it, I'm like, okay, yeah, this is adulting, starting to be on my own, have to learn how to do these things. Yeah, it can feel really lonely and like, oh yeah, like this is all on me, you know? But like it's kind of like a, I don't know, a gratifying thing in a sense of like, oh, if I can do this, like I can do anything. Like if I can like become self-sufficient, like I can be anything kind of vibe. So I think, yeah, in a sense, it feels like okay, relying, being very self-reliant and like learning how to be confident in being self-reliant, but also knowing that like you have other options. Like it's not just, doesn't have to only be a thing that you do. Like for like you're alone in it.
Yeah. Self sufficiency can be overwhelming when we look at the bigger picture. You
Yeah.
know, it's like, oh, I have to be able to pay all my bills on my own. I have to be able to do this on my own. I have to be able to do
Mhm.
that. I have to be able to make. What is the biggest decision you can share? Of course, there are certain things that you will not be able to share. But what is,
Mhm.
can you think of a decision that required a lot of balancing for you and kind of was difficult for you to make, but knew that you had to make it for your best interest?
I think maybe just like coming towards the end of like college, because I think
Mm-hmm.
initially like I've never really thought like, even though I had dreams of like what I want my career to be, I had never
Mm-hmm.
actually sat down and thought about like, okay, what is my life gonna look like after college?
Uh-huh.
Like I
Uh-huh.
definitely didn't do it that far in advance. So like around like, I don't know, like the last 6 months of college or something, I was like, wait, like I need a job after college. I need to find somewhere to live and I
Mm-hmm.
need to have all those things like by 6 months time, like ready, like
Mm-hmm.
waiting.
Yeah.
And I was just like, how the heck am I supposed to do that? Like I don't see a way. I truly don't see a way. But I think what I tried to tell myself is that like, thinking to the big picture all the time, it's a good motivator, but like you have to take things day by day and step by step. So
Yeah.
I think maybe the hardest decision that I had to make was like, I guess like just trying to like be present to know that like being present enough to know that things are gonna work out, because in that like, I don't know, in that whole cycle of things, it's like finding a job, not easy. They don't tell
Yeah.
you how not easy it is. Like um and like finding an apartment fresh out of college is even worse. Like
Right.
nobody wants to give like, everyone has this conception of college students, they're partiers, they're unreliable, blah blah. So and like obviously also college people fresh out of college don't usually have a rental history. So
Right.
it's like you're really just coming in blind and nobody really wants to take a chance on that. So like it's all of those like mini factors that I feel like maybe potentially like were like small hard decisions like every day that I was just like, am I doing the right thing? Like, like is this like even like getting apartment offers and whatever, and like being like, oh, we can't take this one or whatever. Or
And to decide which one was the best for you in terms of location,
yeah, exactly.
functionality,
Yeah.
lifestyle.
So I think, I guess, no, wasn't that necessarily a decision, but I think for me the hardest thing was like when your life, like not when your life, but when something big in your life is like coming to like the climax. The hardest thing for me was trying to like be patient and be in the moment of like, oh, everything's gonna work out. Because in that moment, it just never seemed like anything was gonna work out. So I think the hardest thing for me was just to like keep reminding myself every day, like, God has a plan, something's coming, it's gonna work out, it's gonna be fine. So yeah, I think that was probably the hardest thing.
Yeah, and being patient and reassuring yourself that it's going to work out in the end just the way it's supposed to, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes we plan on things being one way and then it doesn't come out that way.
yeah,
And it can be very disappointing and sometimes it can lead to loss of confidence, and then doubt in yourself. And so, how have you dealt in those moments of self doubt? How have you dealt with it?
So doubt. I think like much of what I've been saying before, like I think it's always a tricky thing to like know, like be confident in what you're gonna do next. Because even at this like young, like 24, like what do we know? You know, what do we really know? So it's like it's hard because like yes, becoming independent and becoming self-reliant is like a consistent journey of being an adult. But I just feel like sometimes every day is like you're doubting, like, oh, is this really where my life's gonna go? It's like even in your job, like it can feel like you're gonna be in like your first job forever because you're like, okay, what next? So like I think for self doubt, I kind of just like handle it as in like I don't know, just telling myself that like for my like just looking at all the good things that I've done, you know, in the timeline that I set for myself. So like whenever I'm doubting like, oh, this is how I feel in this moment. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing, da 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 da. I like try to like take a step back and I'm like, okay, but so far alone this year between a year ago and now, I graduated college. I got my first real job. Like I got so it's like it kind of I think bringing yourself back to like your wins, like big or small, can really like make an impact because I think we give ourselves less credit than we have like we always like our harshest critics. And so I feel like in moments of self-doubt it's always good to like just take a second to reconfigure, come back to yourself, and be like, no wait, I actually had that, I actually do have this, I'm actually doing amazing. And so yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
how
so
I deal with it.
you remind yourself of your small wins, as you said. So that is one
Hmm.
of the skills that you have gained in
Hmm.
Adulting 101, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's a pretty big skill to gain. You mentioned also being patient.
Hmm.
I heard you spoke about on stepping back and taking a pause.
Hmm.
Is a difference between reacting and responding,
Hmm.
and that is a big difference in
Hmm.
the results that you get. So that's a big skill that is very important in adulting. You
Yeah.
know, um, checking your wins, stepping back, and reconfiguring. That is also big things. Reframing your mindset. Um, the other day I was speaking to some of my aunt and my uncle, and like sometimes I feel at my age, my family is as though sometimes I depend on my family. And I said, no, stop. Thank God you have a family that is so supportive.
Hmm.
You know, so instead of feeling like guilty, like no, they are always not that you don't go out to do things, no, to take advantage, but you know that if something goes awry, that
Hmm.
family is that. I remember something I don't want to say tonight, but I would say she would tell me, "Mommy, you have to owe me because you always have to mention me on your programs or with somebody." So I would, but it is something almost like that because I mean, for all those people who know me, I can be extremely blunt and direct and
Hmm.
um no censorship sometimes when it comes to being empathetic to certain things, and when I have to say something sometimes it just come out. Sorry for the other person on the other end of it. So my older daughter is always a diplomatic one, so she buffers other people from my brazenness most times. So it's in times of those things we're talking about, I'm like, you know what? That all that is adulting, knowing when to be able to be diplomatic, which I am still learning. So where do you think adulting ends? Do you think adulting 101 ever ends? Or do you think it will ever end? Do you think you'll reach a part in your life where you'll say, I've got this?
No, I don't really think it ever ends. I mean, I just Like I saw this video the other day and they were like, "Oh, like be kind to your mom. Like she's just a girl too. Like she's just a girl. Like she's just an adult." And like that really like I don't know reframed a lot for me because I never really thought about it in that perspective of like yeah, our parents are like who we look to and like our example, but like they're living this life too for the first time. Like
Right,
they're not perfect and they're not going to know everything all the time. Like I mean, they're wiser, they're older, so they're by like they know the lessons of life like and they can pass it on to us. But that doesn't mean like they know everything and they haven't stopped learning, and stuff
right.
like that. So I think just from that example alone, like I know that, now that I've reached this adulthood stage, like I'll keep like probably thinking like it's always something until I'm like, I don't know, 100 years old.
It's
And
always something.
so yeah, I don't really think it's gonna end. I mean, I think it's a beautiful thing to think about though, to always be growing and always having like things in your life that you can look forward to. Like, oh, if I'm 60, when I'm 60, I might still not know like, you know, stuff about this. So I don't know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's like a constant journey, adulthood.
Definitely is a constant journey, and each lesson is you put it in as a feather in your cap,
Yeah.
and it helps. I don't know when I will ever learn diplomacy. You'll ask, God help me. I'm 52. I don't know. So it's a very, 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 very long
Love
journey.
journey.
When I'm in a professional mode, it's easier. But
Yeah.
when I have to deal with the normal things and so I can be very impatient. So it is it is always a learning journey, it's always a learning moment. And
Mhm.
well, what do you use to keep you grounded? Do you have any routines that help keep you grounded?
Yeah. I mean, I think like I'm a very like hobby driven person, and as I said earlier too, I really really live my life by the motto of you won't always be motivated, but you have to be disciplined.
Discipline,
And
right?
I think discipline really gets you far. Like in anything that you do, you have to be committed and you have to give yourself like that little push because it will do good for you in the long run. So like I try to stay on a schedule, like go to work, after work, go to the gym, even if I don't want to. I'm not like the best gym girly that exists at the gym. I really don't know what I'm doing, but I have to go. Even if I'm on the treadmill for 20 minutes, I have to go. Then I like try to make sure I like have the routine to like, eat properly, eat good, eat healthy, eat like, all 3 meals a day, like etc. Like, and I try to like right now I've taken up embroidery to be
Mm,
on my phone less because I think as an adult it's also good to be humble and know like the things that like get you down. And I think like just the overconsumption of like the media that we experience like as 20 somethings, it's like someone's always out there having more money, having relationships,
yes,
this, having
yes.
this. So I feel like it's also like a good thing to like stay away from your phone sometimes. And so I've been trying to like get hobbies like embroidery or like making sure to perfect like a recipe that I'm trying to learn or like something like that. I've been like trying to like get better at doing my makeup because I'm not a makeup person. I like hate doing my makeup, but I was like, oh, I need to learn. So like stuff like that. Like I never like I always tell people like I always want to be growing, always want to be learning new things. So like I'm never sitting down. I never have a spare well, I may have a spare moment, but I'm always doing something. Like my mom's like, "You change your nails again?" I'm like, "Yes." Like I have to be doing something because I feel like keeping your mind occupied, but also doing things that you love, like can really feed your mind. Because I know, especially at this age, like your mind can really go to really dark places, like comparison, all this stuff, loneliness. And so I feel like feeding yourself with a routine kind of like keeps you away from that, And that's what I have found. I found like when you stick to the routine, your days are like fuller, and you have more to do.
That's a lot going on in a 24-year-old. Some of us up there in age haven't even got to that part yet. Yeah, I don't think you're an adult in 101. I think you're probably on fifth level here, going somewhere. You're doing pretty good. In terms you've mentioned, other than what we earlier mentioned, you mentioned about being, you focus on being undisciplined. Discipline alone in itself is challenging. It can be difficult for a lot of us. But you are very, very correct in that phrase is, um you won't always be motivated, but we have to be disciplined, and it's discipline that gets results. You mentioned always learning, keeping your mind, always a learning form, space. Hobbies are pretty good. Okay, so I have had learning to skate and learning to swim on a to-do list, like forever. People say, but you come from Dominica and you cannot swim. Well, I almost drowned 3 times, and that came from learning to swim. So it's really about my fear of having water pass over my nose. So I can float, and I do doggy paddle, and I go from left to right on the shore, not
Mhm.
towards the horizon, because of my fear of that. And just tonight, because and I were talking about, well, let me go to a YMCA and do something. And it's like, yeah, it's little things like that. All that makes adulting, or am I going to overcome that fear? And you mentioned about, and that is part of the things you mentioned earlier about being self-aware. And for a young person, know what puts you off. So by dealing with that, you learn to put down the phone and pick up embroidery, pick up doing your nails, because you do your nails yourself as well, doing your makeup, and picking up other things. All that is in terms of reframing things and putting things in a good space for you to enjoy.
Mhm.
Right? What other hobbies have you done?
Hmm. I mean, I took up, well, this is not recently, but like back in the, like when I was in high school, early college, I like took up like doing actual braids, like braids with the extensions and stuff. I like also like took up like doing nails, like but as like a little side hustle. Also, like that was a hobby. Then I mean, like just even in college too, like my roommates were like, "You're never here," and I was like, "Well, I mean, I was like in volunteer groups. I was like, I had like 3 jobs. I just like to stay busy because I feel like I don't know, like it's just the world has so much to experience and like so much like you can get anything you want like out of the world. I believe like if you want it like bad enough, I'm not saying for all the negative things, but like the good things that you want to like nourish your life, you just have to like ask questions and go after it. So like those are like some of most of the hobbies I have. I mean, I also like spend a considerable amount of time watching new shows and TVs and have like thousands of TV subscriptions to watch my new shows on each platform. So that also takes up a good chunk of my time. But yeah, as far as like the hands-on ones, like the newest one is in poetry, and like the older ones kind of been like art, drawing, and like doing like nails and stuff.
And in putting all of those things in perspective, how has managing finances and saving been for you?
It's been easy at some points, harder at others. Because I mean, I think one of my like the ways that I like to pour into myself is like I love a gift, and I also love to give gifts. I'm a gift giver, that's like a part of me. But I think I learned this lesson probably more around the time of like um when we're moving out of college, like moving to apartment, like, when adulthood really set in for me. I really realized that like, as much as like you can want to treat yourself like with like, get yourself like a little gift, like every paycheck and stuff like that. Like I started to learn that like it's better to invest and like save your money for like a later date, and like kind of also reframe things in a sense that like, okay, if I want something, I'm not going to immediately like say no. I'm gonna recognize that I want it, and then I'll like write it down, take a picture, whatever. And if I'm constantly thinking about that item, like if I constantly find myself drawing myself back to it, I like, okay, what's the price of that item? What do I have to do to work to get it? And if I can't make the money and I can't like reconcile this purchase after a while, then I don't need it. You know? So I think it's like, yes, as much as we want to save and stuff like that, I also am not the person to be like, oh yeah, don't spend your money on this, because I think it's important to like treat yourself. And so I think like as long as you're saving a good amount of money like from your paycheck, but also like working towards saving for something that you want, I believe you should spend the money on that. Because at the end of the day, life is short. Yes, we're all saving towards like the bigger picture, house, whatever. But I also feel like in the small moments too, like, you have to like bet on yourself and like treat yourself. So I think I've learned a lot of lessons with saving. I mean, that's been the biggest one, because I don't think I was like necessarily the best with money. I wasn't bad, but I mean, I didn't understand fundamentally yet, like the importance of like not like pressing buy on everything that you wanted. You know what I mean? Like conceptually, like you have to like give it time to breathe. Like maybe that would be like, I learned the value in like unnecessary purchase or planning to purchase, which I didn't really like have
I
before.
like that. Unnecessary purchases, yes, and planning to purchase. Sometimes it's I like how you said that you would take a picture of it. So you
Mm-hmm.
have learned how to delay gratification
Mm-hmm.
to understand the necessity of the purchase,
Yeah.
and as well as delaying gratification, which also helps you in discipline and
Mm-hmm.
enjoying the gift when you actually are able to get it.
Yeah.
You know, in the world which we are in right now, everything is just for I want it now, the
Mm-hmm.
now thing, you know thing.
Yeah.
And even in small children, we see that if they are not guided and molded in understanding the importance of delayed gratification, or we want them to stop. Sometimes as parents, we just want a child to stop screaming, so we just give them the thing now,
Mm-hmm.
but then that can backfire on us in the long run because, and it all fits into the kind of society we have.
Mm-hmm.
It's a now for now sense of gratification. So it's also a very disciplined thing to tell yourself
Yeah.
when you are in charge of your own money,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give that time,
Yeah.
see if I really need it. And it can be very hard. It can be really, really hard because a lot of times we can really make the justification for something that we want. We can make that
Mm-hmm.
argument very, very
Yeah.
for something that we want and not necessarily need.
Mm-hmm.
And an important thing is knowing between a need versus a want
I want. Yeah.
versus it's okay to treat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, everything is in balance. That
Yeah.
we cannot use that treat yourself excuse all the time.
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
know? Yeah. So in all that busy life, Abby, how do you manage your relationships with your friends and with your family? How does that work for you?
I think I still am able to find the time. I think, well, friends and stuff is tricky. I think friends is like a bigger overarching topic in like your adulthood, which nobody mentioned that like you're not necessarily gonna keep friends. Like, and like it's hard like when everyone else gets their own lives, and like how everyone else deals with adulthood can affect how your friendships like either get better or like crumble, which is
Right.
kind of like very sad to think about. But I mean, I just try to check in on people as much as I can. I mean, as I said before, like I'm very much a people's person. I'm always like, even in my busyness, I'm always thinking about people. Like, oh, how did that person? They mentioned that they had this at work. Let me check in and ask, oh, how did that go well at work? Like, did you do this? Or like how's the new job, or if someone's like mentioning a new job, like, oh, they're starting that, I remember I'll have to text and stuff. I mean, and my family as well. Like, I mean, we all have the group WhatsApp group chat whatever. I text a lot. Um, well, I can't lie. Like sometimes I do like because it's a bunch of spam text messaging, all these like gifts and whatever. And so sometimes I'm like, these gifts again. But then yeah, I try to like be on top of it best I can and like enter people and I talk to my mom probably like a million times a day, which my dad always jokes about. He's like, "You on the phone again?" But I mean, I really like talking to my mom, so I think it's just it feels like nothing to me. It seems like just like a nice little fun little activity. So yeah, I think like just managing them best I can. I mean, I think the most humbling thing I've like started to learn about relationships is like you just have to at this point just pour into the people who pour into you, who pour back into you, because I think as adults, like we can have these ideas of like chasing after people we want to fit in our lives just because we know them, but like that doesn't necessarily always translate, because like you'll go like crazy like trying to fit these people into your life that have told you time and time again in different ways that they don't necessarily fit and they're not going to last forever, and then that will make you miss out on all the good stuff that you already have, and like all the friends, the family members, and like even if you may not have a lot of friends right now, like you know like as still pouring into like the stuff that you do have, I think will fill you up more than the loneliness of chasing things that you think you should have, if that makes sense. So I just try to like remember that too, because even in the transition of like I've lost some like friends. I don't want to say lost, but like some of my relationships are not as strong with certain friends that I thought like would be forever, so like in trying to reframe that and be like, okay, like let me just focus on what I do have, and know that it's not like I tried, so it's not like a me thing, and it might not even be a them thing too. It just like kind of just is what it is.
So much, so much, so much advice here. Strong, strong. Listen to what you said. Pour into the people who pour into you. This is a strong, strong point for adulting.
Mhm.
People, they have told you in different ways. And in another way that you said that, told you in different ways that they are not your people. But because we want them to be, you said the loneliness of chasing. I love that. That is absolutely beautiful because it absolutely is. You keep on chasing people that don't necessarily want to reciprocate that relationship and that energy into you.
Mhm.
And into you end up feeling lonely and depressed, unloved, devalued, and minimized. And
Mhm.
yes, so there is somebody else there in your corner who are just waiting for you to pour all of that into them because they've been
Mhm.
pouring it into you. So
Yeah.
it's about also coming back to what you mentioned, to being self-aware, to be able to evaluate the circles in your life,
Mhm.
and to point to that. This is absolutely beautiful. And that is why I believe that you all, as youth, have so much to mentor us, the adults, because a lot of us still struggle with those very simple things that you speak of: discipline, finding hobbies, being self aware, leaving the loneliness of the chase out by pointing to those who point to you, by doing small steps, taking small steps and things in clusters, in achieving your goals. Um, Confidence, I mean, as I said, checking your wins, checking
Mhm.
who is there for you and pouring back into them, you
Mhm.
know. And that is also a part of building your support network, right?
Yeah.
And being able to ask for the help you need because you develop that foundation and that good rapport that sometimes then it still is difficult for us to ask for help. How is it for you? I know sometimes for me it is, but I've found a way to just turn it into humor. That I've always said, the most somebody can say is no. I mean, I don't go and ask random people when I'm talking about
Yeah.
my family and my network. I've
Mhm.
learned to always ask, because it was very hard for me to accept gifts from people until a friend once told me, I'm giving you something. You don't have to give it back. I'm giving it to you, and you have to stop and just say thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Just say thank you. And for some of us, that's very hard to accept when we are very giving.
Mm-hmm.
Just say thank you and accept it. Is that something for you as well?
Yeah, I think for me, like it is because I think my nature of my personality is just very go go go. Like, don't ask for nothing. Like, just keep going. Da 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 da. But I think I really just over time I have learned like to lessen in like asking for help, asking questions. Because my mom always does say that too. She's like, the worst somebody could tell you is no. And even if they do say no, like
And then
that's not the worst thing in the world.
it's
Like,
not the worst thing
so
at all.
I mean, so I think for me naturally, I think before, yeah, I never used to ask for help. I'd be like, no, I got it, da 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 da. But I think I mean, usually the people who are scared to ask for help and like don't want to like accept things, I think kind of stems from like a point of like you don't want to be a bother, like you don't want to bother anyone. But I think it's really just humbling yourself enough to be like, okay, I bring all these beautiful things into someone else's life, and like them doing it, and like being there for me, them listening to me, and like that's not a burden. That's like that can be their way of showing like, yeah, you do bring all these things to your life. Let me add to your life as well.
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes you can get so like kind of stubborn and like stuck in like, oh, like I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to worry this person about this. Like I don't want to like just keep dumping on this person. But I think like also like just knowing that like if people like in your life and if they really truly care for you and like they're
Yeah.
there for you, like they don't see it as a burden at all. And I think like that's something to always remind yourself of because I feel like, I mean, being independent, I think like a downside of it is like when you become too hyper independent, like you force yourself into these ideals that like no one like it's only you and you like
Right.
you
To
have to
be
do. Yeah,
independent, you should not be
yeah,
dependent or ask anybody for help.
yeah,
And on,
exactly.
yeah, and on that note, we're going to show our sponsors how
Mm,
grateful we are for us being able to stand on their shoulders. So let's give back some time to them. And remember, you're looking at the Youth Effect. Our guest is Abigail Linton. I'm your host, Kathy Robinson. And stay right there. We'll be back with you in a minute.
Get ready for an electrifying thriller. A fearless New York attorney takes on corrupt corporate giants fighting for the powerless. Can this seasoned attorney and his team take down a monstrous company and its powerful leader? What will be the final verdict? What price will our heroes pay? Find out as you turn the pages of The Trust by Sam George. Get your copy of The Trust today from Amazon.com.
A smart house run by a vengeful AI, a mute witness to an act of unspeakable evil. A breadfruit thief is haunted. A young man unwittingly creates a god. Giant crapos terrorize a community. A witch seeks revenge on her neighbors, and much more. The Piton Noir Writing Collective is thrilled to announce the release of the third book in their acclaimed anthology series, The Flying Crapo. Flying Crapo, Heroes and Monsters. Now available for purchase on Amazon.com. Get your copy today and embark on a journey filled with heroes, monsters, and the magic of the Caribbean.
Hi, thank you. And we are speaking to the most wisest of our young mentors in the person of Abigail Linton, and she has offered us already so much food for thought, and not only food for thought, but things to put action to. She's also mentioned about setting routines and schedules, which and empowering yourself. If you cannot empower yourself, discipline, go to the gym if you don't feel like it, but still go. And sometimes when you do have established yourself in a routine, you find yourself just doing it because brain memory, right? Muscle
Mhm.
memory they call it.
Mhm.
So excuse me, I have terrible allergies, and now is the time for, if it's not the flu, is something. So yeah, so as I mentioned something in terms of the flu and everything else, how do you manage your health care, your self care? How do you manage that?
Well, I'd say thankfully, I don't get sick too often. I think, I don't know, that's a blessing. I don't take it for granted. But I do like try to like stay on top of like, I don't know, like drinking lots of water, like taking my vitamins, stuff like that. Also, just in even having a routine of like doing my hair like every 2 weeks, I have to do my hair. Everyone's like, do you have to like, do you still have like, is this a strict? And I'm like, yes, it is strict because I'm creating like plans for myself in my head. So like, I know like, you know, I have this to look forward to, this certain thing that I have to do that will like, help me like, look good, get my hair done, I do my nails every 2 weeks as well, or 3 weeks. Like, just try sticking to those things. I think is important for my personal self care because it just always makes me feel like better and refreshed after. Like, I mean, some people are like, "Your hair's not messy yet," but I'm like, "Yes, it is. I can see the frizzies." Like, da da da. So, like, I don't know, just committing to stuff like that, and like, yeah, I think that's like mostly my self care. Just trying to eat good and sticking to my little routines of like doing my hair and my nails and like, stuff like that. And also watching a lot of TV. I really do love TV. Like I feel like relaxing, like cleaning your room and just putting on a show like is also like my favorite thing ever. Yeah.
Okay, great. I trying to imagine how you get time to do all of those things, Abby.
No, it just is actually it's a very strict schedule. Like I like I just get to go and I'm like do my hair while I'm doing my hair, watching a little show. I'm like, okay, cool, cool. After that, I have to do my nails, cool, cool. Like it's
So
just
you
very
multitask certain things.
yeah, like
Things
hair and show go together for
here
sure.
and should go together.
Yeah.
Yes, that's lovely. All right, we've covered quite a bit of topics. We've spoken about goal setting and planning, how you stay motivated and focus on your goals. You mentioned that to do routines and being disciplined. We spoke about self-care, wellness, financial management, how you navigate uncertainty. You mentioned was staying self-aware, going always in learning mode, and that helps. And we mentioned how you make decisions. How it is, if you like to that, how do you go about making big decisions? Have we touched that now?
Big decisions.
Yeah, especially
Mm,
when you're not sure what the outcome will be.
yeah.
How do you go
Well,
about doing that?
I don't know. I think that's like kind of a tricky thing I'm still trying to navigate just because at the root of myself, I won't lie, I'm pretty indecisive. Or maybe, I don't know. I'd like to say I'm decisive to a fault. Like I feel like I know exactly what I want, but then I'm like, maybe I need to like, think this like extra. Maybe I need to add like 100 steps to this. And everyone's like, oh, you're overthinking it now. But like, so now I still I'm able, unfortunately, to make big decisions just off my own like intuition. I like had to ask my parents first. I'm like, so what do you think of this? Then I had to like it trickles down the line. I had to ask my parents, then I had to ask my brother, then I had to ask my best friend, and then I have to like go back up the chain of command, like go back. But I think for like most decisions, I guess I mean my parents are always like that redirected back to me. They're like, at the end of the day, you're an
But
adult.
that's good though, because sometimes, yeah, that's good because making big decisions, sometimes we can get so focused on it, what we want to do, that might impact us. And other people who, of course, not just any other person, the other people who are interested in our best interest may
Mm-hmm.
see something that we do not see. So
Yeah.
asking for feedback in making decisions is extremely, extremely important. And at your age, if you do that, that is full kudos to you. At 24, I was headstrong and nobody tell me anything. Kathy does what Kathy wants to do. And sometimes we learn late that that is not the way to go. Because some we want to learn the pitfalls on our own, and some of us have gotten the pitfalls,
Hmm.
and we learn from the experiences. But the
Yeah.
important thing that for me, as I always tell my daughters, I don't want it would be nice. One of the good things I share my experiences with you because I do not want you all to do like me. I want you to be wiser than me in terms of learning from my experiences,
Hmm.
learning from my pitfalls that I share with you. Because if you learn from my experiences, you don't have to waste time in your life getting the same results that I get, and no, you lose that extra time. But by learning from my experiences or from others' people's experiences who are older, you gain that time, you gain their wisdom, and you
Hmm.
gain that time into make a decision that is going to be even add to your value more. Did that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So it is a lot of kudos to you and to other young people at your age who are still high spirited and independently oriented, however still have that a word that I want but I cannot get, but still have that difference to accept the experience from others and have that internal young wisdom to use that in your decision making. So that's a great, great thing in being to step out of your comfort zone and listen to somebody else, because it's not very comforting hearing somebody tell you, I don't think that's gonna work. That can hurt.
Yeah, it can.
That can hurt. And to have that character trait to be able to sit down and say, okay, I think I may have to tailor it down a bit. That's
Hmm.
a very, very good thing, Abby. Kudos to you for being able to do that and being able to listen and taking the advice wholeheartedly. Excuse me. Excuse me. What would you what would you tell others in your age group about
Hmm.
adulting? Somebody is going to, okay, so step back a couple years when you were leaving home to go to high school.
Hmm.
As the first time you're going to be away from home,
Hmm.
what was that like to you? And what from that experience, what would you share with young people leaving home to either go off to high school on their own or go off to college for their first time? Because now we're hitting it's gonna be graduation season.
Hmm.
What would you tell to young people leaving home for the first time?
Mm, I would say, like, I mean, goes back to the root of like all that we've been kind of touching on, like to be patient with yourself and to like recognize that you are a human and like you're multifaceted. So obviously, you're always gonna feel like a lot of different things, but like also like, you know, always reframe and like whatever you do, like recognize the purpose in your action. Like, why am I doing this? What am I getting at the end of this? And then like try in the midst of doing like what you have to do, like try to find like smaller joys and like, the journey. Cause I feel like, the journey is always gonna be what it is, like hard, easy, whatever. But like it's when you like seek out the moments that you could potentially make the journey even better, I think it's important. So like even like going into new spaces, like trying to like make sure you make some friends. Like making friends is hard, but like I mean, I think the worst they can say is no, like applies to like everything, including like friendships and just opportunities in general. Like don't be afraid to like say hi, say hello. Like you never know like where a friendship can lead you. Like the person could be in your life forever. They call to like help you integrate more. Cause I know when I went to like school, I was like so scared. I knew no one. I had like my thick accent, and like everybody was like, "Huh, where's she from?" Da, da. And I just remember like I made like a one small rule for myself. Like there was this dining hall, and I was like, if I just go every day and sit down at a new table, just with a random person like that, like I'll see someone sit on a table, and I specifically go to that table to sit down next to that person, and like not force myself, but like the initial force myself to go have a conversation with this person that I had never met before. And I made like so many friends and like in high school, like by that, like friends that I talk to this day, like because you always just gotta take a chance on yourself and like I don't know, just push yourself to do the hard thing, I would say. And like you never know what's gonna come of it. So I think that would be my main advice for people like transitioning through spaces, like feel the excitement and like what's to come, but like don't let the fear of what's to come also like make you like you know buckle down. Like don't let that deter you. Like just go into your best foot forward, try your best, and even if when you don't feel like your best is good enough, at least it's something. Like at least you're bringing something to the table. Always bring something to the table is what I would say. Yeah.
That's literally so. You're bringing yourself to the table, getting to
Yeah.
know somebody,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, this is really, really wonderful. As well as getting involved, get involved in
Mm-hmm.
clubs,
Yeah.
get involved in different things, because the more time you stay by yourself, the more you will not understand what culture shock is, and culture
Mm-hmm.
shock can be very
And it's real.
brutal. It is real. So getting to know other people, because a lot of, even not to this day, you're out for a couple of years, but I was somewhere, I can't remember where. Oh yeah, I had some family over on my cousins over on the weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and we were talking about the simple fact thing of saying, was it my family or was it in a group chat? Sometimes the lines between things get so blurred. About, oh, it is in my group chat, in my old school, my graduating year school chat. We were talking about saying good morning. We are taught, even though it's strangers you pass on the road, you enter space, you say good morning. You pass somebody in the street, you say good morning.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go into the quote unquote so called first world countries, in such a more individualized country, and you say good morning, people don't respond. You may feel, oh, there's something wrong with me. They don't say, no, you don't take it personal because the
Mm-hmm.
culture is different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you say good morning anytime. Anyway, sometimes you get a response, and sometimes you may not, and sometimes you may make somebody's day by saying good
Mm-hmm.
morning to them.
Yeah.
So it's those things that when you mingle with people, you start to understand what it is to do, what is it not to do. Some things we do in the West that in China and these places are mean the total opposite. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to immerse yourself in the culture for literally so to understand the do's and the don'ts and how you navigate around it, what you maintain and what you kind of put on the side a little bit for when you get back with your own people. Not you getting Americanized or Canadianized or
Yeah.
Europeanized, but there
Yeah.
are certain things, habits that you have to just put on the away and then incorporate new ones so that you can learn. And I heard you mention it with your accent, and I say, what? I taught for a little while, and the children always laughed at my accent. Always laughed at the way I pronounce words and stuff like that. And there
Mm-hmm.
are times that I had to learn how to pronounce the words so the children couldn't understand. You know, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Back home, we don't understand. You say, "Oh, you just go away and you come back with American accent." Well, people have to understand you in the place that you live.
Yeah.
you know. And then when you go and you mix up with your people now, you have to it's a good kind of acting, because you have to
Yeah.
constantly switching back and forth so both people can understand, as well as for it also for our society to be a little less judgmental, because they themselves are not exposed to what
Mm-hmm.
you're exposed to. And so that is really some good advice you gave in terms of putting yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone
Mm-hmm.
and this can be hard, but by doing a little at a time, switching tables,
Mm-hmm.
joining a club, the international club is always there,
Yeah.
and a sport or something. If you were not in a sport, join a literary club, join the school government. There's always good exposure there, right? So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
yeah, these things can help you eliminate a lot of culture shock. And before you know it, yes, you're missing home, but you're not missing home as such to be in a depressed state.
Yeah.
Because spending so much time being depressed, you lose out on so much opportunities. And you mentioned it earlier, the more you get yourself stuck into those other things, you miss out on what you wish it were, you miss
Mm-hmm.
out on what is.
Mm-hmm.
So that is pretty very good advice for those who are living home for the first time, not having their parents there, their siblings there, people we know around, and going into a totally different environment.
Mm-hmm.
What would you tell us as adults, Abby, in terms of relating to our young adults?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like, as I said, like I talk to my mom like a lot, like all the time. And I feel like I think as adults, like engaging with those young people, I think especially from like the lens of like parents to kids, like I've really found like such a beauty in like I know like our parents always used to say like I'm not your little friend, like like just like yeah, of course, mom, you're not my little friend. But I feel like as we get older, like the friendships that we find in our parents, like is like such a beautiful thing, and like I think like we learn a lot from each other. Like obviously we learn more from our parents maybe than they learn from us. But I think also like I think I would tell the adults like, to give us a chance, like, we can put you guys onto some things too. Like, like I think and as we talked about before, like everyone's always constantly growing, and I think like just us individually as humans, we're so multi like faceted, like so like at whatever age I feel like adults can always learn like a thing or two, like and vice versa. We can always learn a thing or two as well. So I think I would just say, yeah, like give the youth a chance and listen to us. And, also like, I think with like being young, I guess we can have the opposite effects of like, we're young and we're like not necessarily set in our ways because we're also always going from the example of people who were set in their ways, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think learning from that and like seeing like, it's time to like lessen up on all the learned behaviors, maybe negative learned behaviors that we like the older like adults knew in their past, and like kind of come down to us, our level, and like feel like, yeah, see things from our perspective as well.
Definitely. And this is one of our main goals from on the youth effect, so that you all can mentor us. You've given such great advice tonight. Oh, you've
Yeah.
given such great. I'm on my second page of taking notes. And then I'm going to ask you another question. You mentioned about growth, all right, and
Mhm.
personal growth and learning from you. So, yes, what books you said you do a lot? I don't know if you do books, but you said about you do podcasting and TikTok and stuff. What shows do you recommend that we could look at as well that would help us, or give any other resources that would help us to be able to grow as a person as well as understand you all?
That's a good question. I don't know if the shows necessarily. I'm not sure if I could pinpoint a show at this current moment. Maybe because I'm just such a rom-com, drama, telenovela person. So like maybe that's a little bit too dramatic for advice. But I would say like I mean there's a lot of podcasts out right now that like I feel have a lot of different perspectives. I know my mom always sends me like Michelle Obama's podcast. I know like Michelle Obama is not really our generation, but I feel like also just like the levity and like the lightheartedness of like some podcasts and like bringing perspectives from like I don't know older adults who also have children our age, because Michelle Obama has like children our age, I think, and so just that might be interesting too. But I think also, I don't know. I think I'm thinking of shows. I can't necessarily think of any like media, but I think just like I don't know, just watching the news and like keeping informed, like I think is probably like a go-to answer because I think us as young adults, we're always like in the topic of conversation, like whether it's like on policy, politics, like what's happening in the government, like how it's like affecting like young people, like all the stuff that young people have to say. Because I think our generation has like consistently always has a voice and like especially now and like that's always like with all the things we have now, podcasts, the news, like Instagram, whatever, I think our voice travels really far. So I think, I mean, just taking the time to, even if you see a video of a young person saying something, like just taking the time to just stop and like quickly like, oh, find out more about that, I think is a good way to like stay engaged with the youth, I would think.
And so we can look through a whole list of podcasts on YouTube
Mhm.
and IG and things
Yeah.
like that and find it out for ourselves. Okay, and that helps us to grow in terms of understanding and bridging the gap of communication between and
Yeah.
also learning y'all's lingo and your new language.
Yes.
Y'all could sell us out in anything while we are sitting standing right there in the room. You all have your own things going. Y'all could sell us totally.
Yeah,
Totally,
have our
totally,
own little
totally.
language.
Yes, all the language and stuff like that. Um, so in terms of all of this, Abby, what types of mindset shifts now have helped you to navigate other than discipline when you get into your what mindset shift, major mindset shift have you had to help you navigate through challenges?
I think to me like the discipline, but also being humble works hand in hand to me because I think in this life like it's really important for me to like know that I'm imperfect and I'll never truly know it all. And even if I like think I know it all, like in moments I think I know, I really, really, really don't know. So I think for me, I always try to like remain humble in everything I do and know that like I'm not like I can be wrong, I can learn, there's more to learn, and I can ask for help. I think that to me centers around humility. And so even for like jobs, I always put in my cover letter like I'm just always trying to grow and like this like and that's a challenge like every single day like into putting myself in spaces where I feel like I can learn more. So I always put that in a little paragraph in my cover letter to show them that like yes, especially if I'm like new to the like type of job that they're asking for, to just show that like I may not know anything about this job and I may not like but I think it's a challenge to want to learn more and to want to grow and it's a commitment. So I think humbling yourself to know that yeah, I may be new to this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm gonna try. I think helps me move on too. Like, so apart from being disciplined, just knowing like to sit down, be patient, and be like, okay, you don't have it all figured out, and like don't act like you do, and yeah, just like trying to acknowledge that every day. I think helps me a lot.
Cool. And what advice would you give us as the older ones? Or okay, you said that to listen. You would like us to understand you all and give you all a chance. And yes, that's what you said, right? Give you all a
Hmm.
chance, listen, understand.
Hmm.
Missing something? Did I miss something? That was it. Is there something else you would like to add to that?
I mean, I think like a big like phenomenon is like active listening versus like passive listening. And I think like the higher up the generation you go, like back in time, like adults are more prone, I think, from my perspective, to telling than listening. And even if they're listening, they're definitely not active listening half of the time. Is what I have noticed. And this is not further shade to any adults that I know. I'm just saying, like, I think when you've especially being the role of like a parent or like a mentor or like some like a those types of figures, it's easy to want to like always have to tell us exactly what to do and how to do it. And it's always like easier to, like even in a small complaint, like if someone's like, oh, I don't feel good about this, da da da, it's like, oh well, da 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 da, you should feel da 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 da, and you should, but it's like I think the foundation of like growing together and like growing with the people who love you is also like acknowledging that like you have to listen, like you have to like take that time, listen to the bones of what people are saying, because everyone reacts to things differently, everyone has different temperaments, everyone has different perspectives on things. But like if you're always ready to answer your kid or like your younger person before you even have time to understand their perspective, like you're always going to be like kind of fueling a gap between you two, because then they're never going to want to talk to you and they're never going to want to like share anything. So I think that's a really big thing, like the active listening. I think like when you take the time to listen to what people have to say, like the conversation will always be like the resolution or whatever you come to at the end, like it's always going to be like 10 times better than if you're just like, well, it could be worse. Like that's a common answer.
I
It
hate
could be
that.
worse. And
Or somebody else is going through worse.
yeah,
This can be very dismissive. Not this
yeah.
can be. This is very dismissive, and it cuts anybody the wrong way. You can
Hmm.
just totally break down somebody by hearing that, because even if I'm going through a little inch like that, this is my big mountain. Don't tell
Hmm.
me somebody else. This is my big mountain, and for me to go on the other side of it, I have to be able to go through it.
Hmm.
And for you, maybe you may have a higher tolerance of pain,
Hmm.
and to you, you may consider it as that's baby stuff. Like, well, it's my
Hmm.
baby stuff. Don't
Yeah.
take that away from me. And a lot of times, us as adults, we do that a lot because we can be dismissive. But you mentioned, let's go back a little bit to when you mentioned active listening versus passive listening. Could you break that down into a little bit more definition type? You did give very great examples,
Yeah.
um, in terms of something I say, you're listening, but you're not hearing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we're listening with ready to jump in with an answer. So we're not hearing
Hmm.
half of what the other person is saying,
Hmm.
because we're already formulating a response or a reaction to what the other person is saying. So
Yeah.
could you define or break it down in smaller chunks
Hmm.
for those our listeners and viewers on active listening and passive listening?
Okay. Well, yeah, so I guess like active listening is more like you're taking the time, like you're listening to the story. You're not necessarily like thinking, oh, wait, I have a story like this. I can just like rebuttal back, or like you're not thinking about anything. Like, I mean, obviously our minds are never really completely empty, but you're really making the effort to be like, okay, this is what she's saying. Okay. And just being a listener, like putting yourself in the position to not have to say anything back. You're just committing to that moment for however long that person is talking. Could be 2 minutes, could be an hour. Committing yourself to being like, okay, I'm just gonna listen. And passive listening is more like, okay, yeah, I hear what she's saying, but like she's being dramatic. Like, like how do I interject and like say, okay, wait, but so yeah. So I guess a simpler example of active listening would be like if you're asking me the questions and I'm like, okay, wait, but like she said this, so like, okay, wait, now I have to figure out how I'm gonna say this. Is like, oh, sorry, that's passive listening. I'm like already thinking about what I'm gonna say, like my whole paragraph before she even finishes the sentence. And then that can also even cause a miscommunication because I might even answer a question that she didn't even ask. And then active listening is more like, okay, committing myself to, okay, I'm gonna be silent, brain silent, listening to the full question, and then when she's done, breaking it down on my end and being like, okay, cool, how do I react to this? And some people, they just want you to listen and they don't even want you to say anything back. Like, they just want you to hear them out. A little vent session. Yeah, so I guess that's the differences.
My daughter told me once, Mommy, why do you always have to be like a man? She asked me to come. She came to talk to me, and here I am giving solutions. She's like,
Yeah.
"No, I didn't ask you for solution. I just wanted you to listen.
Yeah.
But you always have to be like a man." I'm like, that hit me to the core, and it made me take stock that I wasn't really listening because sometimes we want to heal you all, but we
Mhm.
have to give you all a chance to find your own answers and
Mhm.
your own way by just listening.
Yeah.
And one very good way too is in understanding if you have actually actively listened. And in actively listening, what Abby is saying is when you actively listen, you get the whole concept, a whole point of what the person is saying. So good, and it brings us along to what you also mentioned, communication. Good and effective communication. You paraphrase what you just heard.
Mhm.
This is what I understand that you are saying.
Mhm.
And you paraphrase what the person was saying. Or did I understand that is what you're trying to say to me? You
Mhm.
paraphrase or you summarize it on what the person was saying to make sure you understand. And you ask the person permission. Um, would you like me to say something about this or
Mhm.
not? We don't
Yeah.
just offer a solution or offer our own point of view or offer our own stories, which is what you
Mhm.
said. Um, and I have to say, admit, I used to do that quite a lot. And in learning and also doing small courses for myself on learning and also in my studies to learning the skills. And we don't have to stop learning. There are lots of places you can go on Coursera, you can go on Google, you can go on there are so many other little courses. There is someone called me and said me, Kathy, what is one of those platforms again? You can do your self courses. There are so many platforms where you can learn free courses. There's openware schools. There's MIT. If
Mhm.
openware, Verizon also has an openware school. You can do any courses. Harvard has one as well. You can take the courses without paying for the certificate, but just for your own development. Never stop learning to learn
Mhm.
and to grow and to develop so you can pass it on to our kids. And
Yep.
so, yes, active listening is very, very important. My daughter too used to tell me, Mommy, you're too quick. So I was telling me, too quick. And I used to tell myself that thing to remember. There is this little thing I used to go, listen, Linda, listen. Because with my problem with listening, I had to get something to remind me. So I said, listen. This is this little boy telling that to his mother. I mean, I guess he was mimicking his father, and he's telling his mother, listen, Linda, listen. It was really, really, it's really, really funny. But it's really very real, based in reality, that we do not listen when people speak to us. And we are quick sometimes and too quick to jump in to give a response. And you rightly said, sometimes the response we give is not even the answer the person is looking for
Mhm.
because we were too fast in feeling along. Sometimes for an ego to look good, you
Yeah.
know. Yes, I
Yeah.
look good. I can give the advice, but that's not what I'm looking for. Sometimes people just want to listen in ear. You are very, very correct in that.
Mhm.
And is that what a lot of you maybe a lot of young people may be looking for, just for us to listen?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think a tricky thing about adulthood is that everyone's always like, yeah, you got this, and you can do it. But I mean, obviously with trying your best in adulthood, there's always going to be questions or complaints. You may have some bad days and stuff. So it's in listening, you still give us the chance to do it on our own, but also know that we can come to you just to be a sounding board, just to listen. Because I tell my mom sometimes all the time, I'm like, Mom, I didn't come here to complain and say oh, I need all these answers. I'm just complaining. Just let my complaints sit. I don't need I'm not gonna do anything about these complaints. I don't my life is not over. I'm not saying everything's bad and I'm just saying, yeah, I had a bad day. This is what the bad day consisted of. And yeah, it is what it is. And I just wanted to let you know. Like it
You
could be
just
as simple as that sometimes.
you
So
just want to be allowed to rant without being told suggestions. Yes.
yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
I
Okay.
think listening is like,
I
yeah,
hear you.
goes a
I
long
hear
way in the adulthood
it goes a
section.
long way. So we have listening in adulting. We have to learn to listen. Let me say all the good advice, Abby. And Abby, what would you share with your peers in terms of adulting and navigating their independence, self-doubt, and confidence? What would be your advice or suggestions to them?
I mean, I would say we got this, you know, anyone listening, like, I mean, we're still doing it, we're still making it, you know. And I think, you know, just I don't know, try your best to like think positive, even if it's like about the smallest of things. Like, yeah, I woke up today and I went to work, even if I didn't want to, I didn't feel like it, I was tired, you know, like small things like that. And also just like, you know, to believe in yourself because we're capable of so much and like you may not feel like it, and especially in the moments, but you have to like, you know, reframe and just be like, yeah, I got this. And I'd also say like, yeah, adulting, as I said, always something. It kind of sucks sometimes. It's very annoying, but I think it's also beautiful in the way that like, you know, you just learn new things every day and like you store it for later. You meet new people, and I think there's also like you know when you're younger, everyone tells you who to be, and like I think in adulthood now, you just be who you are, and like it's like the constant journey of finding who that is. And so I think thinking about that as well, as opposed to thinking about all the negatives, is like a good thing too. Like when you're taking your next steps and stuff like that, it can be fun. It can be encouraging. It can be whatever you want it to be. So yeah, that's what I would say. I
And
would say
explore.
yeah,
There's so many things out there
yeah.
to explore. It's not
Like
just
live the
about work
dream.
and home and work and
Yeah.
home, but
And I think another thing is like just understanding that our adulthood is gonna be so long. Like I tell my brother all the time. I'm like, I'm like, no, like I tell my brother all the time, like we don't have to be these things like right now. Like
right,
we
right.
still
That's
have
what you're
we
right.
still have so much time left. Like you know, God willing, we have so much time left to be the versions of the selves that we want to be now. You know, so
That's I don't know all the words that you will have for it, but that is so strong that you are evolving. You don't have to be everything in this moment.
yeah.
Just sit with it, as you mentioned, and just be. Just sit with it and just be very powerful, Abby. Very, very powerful. So, in addition to all what you said, yeah, there'll always be something. I like that. Always something happening in adulting, always something happening. And just with the G ending, go with it, go with the flow, and just allow yourself to be, you know. For the D, we can say D is discipline.
Mm-hmm.
For the um let me see if I can find something for the you that you mentioned. I cannot find
Like
adulting.
understanding. I don't know.
Understanding. For the L, we can see always learning something.
Mm-hmm.
Learn to grow. Oh, if yes, for the you, we using the things that you said. For the you, we
Okay.
can say let go of the quote unquote unnecessary stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So planning to purchase, we're letting unnecessary things, you let them go.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, for the I after the T, in the moment, be present, be in the moment. And yes. So let me see. ADU, we said DU, we said L. What will be T? T will be okay. I cannot find the T. I'm sure I have some. you know, but be in the moment in terms of building your confidence. We'll just go and check your wins, step back, taking a breath, reframe,
Mm-hmm.
and do your affirmations as well into when you're getting down into your little bogged down moments. Keep yourself. You may not always the phrase, the quotes Abby used throughout tonight, which she uses for herself, which we can use for ourselves in our lives, is we won't always be motivated. But if we maintain a sense of discipline, we will definitely get it. In small steps, setting our boundaries. And of course, the thing that I love when she said, many people have told us in many different ways, no. And no is a full sentence with a period, dot. No. It's boundaries, it's setting boundaries for yourself as well. No is a word. Set your boundaries, maintain your boundaries. And we didn't go into that a lot in terms of ourselves. I wrote it down there, but we didn't come into talking about it much. We have to be able to set boundaries for ourselves. And it's okay when someone chooses not to be in that boundary, it's okay to let them go. Because if somebody doesn't respect your boundaries, it means they do not respect you. It might hurt because, as you said,
Preach it.
we have looked for that person to be part of our lives. But if they don't want to respect our boundaries, then we have to tell them bye. It's a way of them telling us in their own way that we do not matter to them. So let go of the loneliness of the chase. I love that so much. Let go of the loneliness of the chase and just be. Sit with it. Abby, thank you so much. You have filled us so much if tonight, so much. You know, I was trying to do a list of, I think for me, as you said that, one of my areas I need to grow more in is to grow in this more. I have a whole long list of what I need to do and what I want to do, but it's important the discipline in allowing it to grow to where I know it should grow. And one of the things is doing a lot of these little shorts in the things that you will say, because you all have given us so many pieces of advice throughout our programs, on the youth effect. So I want to thank you again for making the time out to sitting with us and sharing part of your life with us, coming in front or in a program like this, and you do not know who may be listening. People can use their own agenda. So I appreciate you taking that risk. Anytime we expose our vulnerability or there is a risk, I want to thank you so much for coming on tonight with us. I wish you all the best in your endeavors. Okay, my dear?
Thank you.
Thank
You as well.
Thank you, my dear. So remember, you're looking at the Youth Effects. We are here every Monday night, unless something else comes up, by which we'll have a replay for you in one of the young people who have spoken to us. So remember, Monday nights on SBE Radio, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. But produced by TDN Media, TDN Radio Caribbean. Okay, you can find us there, as well as you're most probably watching us on my Facebook page live, Kathy Robinson Peter. Thank you so much for spending another one of your precious nights with us. This is Kathy Robinson, and you're looking at the Youth Effect. We'll see you next week, Monday, with another wonderful young person, another mentor for us as the adults as well. Keep on listening, send it out to your friends, send shares, like, subscribe to our youth page as well, the Youth Effect on Facebook. Remember, you can always send in your comments to us at the Youth Effect 767 at gmail.com. Suggestions for people in your life who you want to show off, broadcast. There are people in your life, young people in your life, who deserves to be showed off. So do that for them, for us. Share them with us. We're welcome to that. Have a lovely, wonderful week, and I hope you had a good Easter weekend as well. Be good, be safe. See you next week. Thank you again. Till next time. Good night. Bye.
They gon' hear us roar. Jump. They gon' hear us roar.